Hello, welcome to this patch 3684 overview. So, yeah, we're releasing a new patch, new balance patch. Some changes, so let's just go into it. Just the intro, maybe too brief with that. Reclaim. So, the reclaim rate for Rex has been halved. So instead of a 50 mass per second, which is the rate a T1 energy would reclaim, they will now reclaim at 25 mass per second. So the aim of this change is one, to not punish attackers so much when they attack a base and leave some reclaim. It'll take a bit longer to grab for the opponent, but also more importantly would be to, as it says here, allow reclaim fields to be more contestable to improve the dynamic map control element created by reclaim fields. So a lot of times you'll have a fight somewhere out in the map, not necessarily in either player's base, and there's not any opportunity necessarily for one player to ever take a fight over that reclaim field, because it will be reclaimed extremely quickly by just a small number of T1 engineers. So hopefully we can allow, as it says, the dynamic map control element to be more present, because it's not really there, and it's so much, and it's very interesting and creates more possible battles to take, and more planning around where you want to take fights, and how you can actually regain that reclaim if you have just a small amount of time, even to build some new forces and again take a fight over that area. And it can create times when a certain part of the map will be very important for a longer period of time, and sort of direct the gameplay in that way. Also, we have, yes, props and live units are not affected, so basically natural reclaim and live units are not affected by this reclaim time change, only Rex. And also mass energy split tree has been increased by 25%, so it's not so horrible if you actually break your trees. It's still not great, but it's not quite so painful. Didn't want to increase this too much to avoid people deliberately breaking the trees, which was the case way back when. Onto the ACU upgrades, there's a couple of changes here. The Seraphim's second gun has been given a buff, so it is significantly more mass expensive and slightly less energy costly, but only a small amount. It has a larger AoE, and it has significantly more damage. This is basically one of the rarest upgrades. I think I've seen it just a couple times ever in the history that I've been playing the game. Yeah, maybe just once or twice, so it really is one of the rarest upgrades. So we've buffed it quite a lot, and it should be interesting to see it being used. Seen it in beta, it's quite a useful upgrade now. It shouldn't be too powerful, even though it's quite a significant buff, and it should give Seraphim another option for their ACU in the late game. Personal shield generator of the Aeon has had its recharge time increased because it was just too quick. It's not a very expensive upgrade anymore, and the recharge was just found to be too quick, so it's been increased to a minute and a half from just over a minute. Sparky has its power drain reintroduced. This was removed a long time ago, a very long time ago, because of a bug where Sparkies and SCUs and stuff would not build because they had because of a maintenance cost issue. That bug is fixed, and Sparkies are a very strong unit, so we've reintroduced the maintenance cost. Harbinger has its build rate increased. This is to compensate for the globally reduced reclaim speed. So we didn't want Harbs to reclaim extremely slowly. It would basically make them useless in terms of reclaiming. In which case, why would they even have that ability? So we've increased it. Now MMLs, we've basically improved all the 3 MMLs, the non-Cybern MML, so Aeon, UEF, and Seraphim get MML buffs, and the MMLs are given slightly different kinds of buffs. So we have Aeon here get a 2 health missile, which travels much slower through the air, and it has the same fire rate as well. So, and yeah, so it will take 2 shots from a TMD to kill an Aeon missile, but it travels slower, so you can actually get more shots off with TMD on it. UEF gets a slower fire rate, but it fires a volley of 3 missiles. The Seraphim gets a faster traveling missile and a faster fire rate as well. So the aim of this is basically, as it says, just to buff the MMLs of the non-Cybern. Cybern MML is still the best, and I would say still by a margin from my testing, and the other MLs were extremely weak, I would say. Not very useful in actually breaking bases. Easily stopped by TMD and shields, in comparison to the Cybern, which basically just annihilates fire bases. So they're closer to Cybern, but still the Cybern ML is the best by a good margin. Auroras now are slightly less accurate while moving. This parameter was introduced a while ago, maybe 3 years ago or so, or even more, but it was set to 0.1, which had essentially 0 effect. So we've just increased it slightly, so they're slightly more inaccurate while moving, as they are basically the best T1 tank around. Janice, there is a damage miscalculation, which is my error. So we have fixed that. It was doing more damage than intended. So it has been reduced significantly, and there's also a bug which has been fixed where it would the missiles would travel towards or the bombs would travel towards something they're not supposed to move towards. So that's been fixed, and the damage has been reduced. The Scorcher, the damage over time of the Scorcher has been increased so that it doesn't basically instantly do all of its damage. It did almost all of its damage straight away as it landed, which sort of defeats the purpose of a napalm bomber, and it would regularly one-shot T1 tanks that were even moving, so it's found to be just too powerful. Yes, this especially since the bomber changes from the end of last year. So yes, and UAV bombers do have the most damage. They do 350 damage, or almost that. Okay, veterancy. So veterancy has been changed so that initially or previously, upon gaining a veterancy level 1, you would gain 10% of your base HP back, instantly healing for 10%, and this would increase by 10% with each level. So on veteran level 4 you would gain back 40% of your base HP. So this has been reduced in the higher levels so that it's 10% of base HP on every level, and this applies to all units, this change. And yes, veterancy is most important for experimentals and ACUs. So ACUs, we have actually maintained the previous system because we found it would mess up balance between many different upgrades if we were to reduce the health regained from veterancy, and it's interesting gameplay to find those veterancy levels at the higher level where you can take some fight and go into it knowing that you need to get this veterancy level to survive, etc. So we maintained the old system for ACUs. Every other unit goes by this new system, and we have compensated XPs, which are hit the most by this, with significantly higher regen. And it was a common complaint that, well, you would have, say, a monkey lord, which would be on an extremely low HP and maybe get its 4th veterancy level. And this 4th veterancy level would give it, I believe, let's see, which would it be? It would give it maybe 20k HP. And then you have a 25k HP monkey in your base instead of a 20k, just because it killed a few extra T1 engineers. And this is basically found to be, well, extremely frustrating to play against, and also too powerful, really. Would end up with just an unstoppable experimental, and it encouraged essentially just running experimentals straight through bases and just suiciding them in if they don't actually get the veterancy level, and if they do, then you win the game. So that was the main motivation behind this change, was to try to make the system incentivize smarter use of experimentals rather than just running them straight in and hoping you get those good vets. And if you do, well, you've all lost games like that to experimentals like that. So you can see that the more HP a unit has, the more regen it gets. The formula used to decide this is basically, it would regain the HP it would have instantly gotten within 4 minutes. I'm perhaps not explaining that well, but basically the Soul Ripper, say, would gain 40k HP for the last one, so with the regen it gets instead, which it's buffed to, then it would regain that 40k HP in 4 minutes. So it basically delays the health it's going to get, and it's really, the regen is, it's simply not as useful as the instant healing, but it's a good compensation in that it encourages you to actually play smart, not suicide the experimental, and keep it alive so you can actually make use of the regen from the veterancy you've gained. So yes, you can read through all these values if you wish. They're all listed, and we'll move on to structures. Static flak is buffed, so we essentially just increased the muzzle velocity. Also, Seraphim gets a slight firing randomness decrease to basically line them up a bit closer to each other in effectiveness, and this just allows the units to hit T3 air like strats, especially strats, without increasing their effectiveness too much versus other T1, T2 units. It's another one of those sort of considered a joke unit in the community. People don't make them extremely often, don't make them often at all, in fact. So one of the reasons was that it's simply incapable of hitting T3 air. So now it's capable, but it shouldn't overtake the need for SAM launchers, but it should provide some support, some protection. Okay, factory HPs. So we basically just realigned some values. The main thrust of it is naval factories get more HP. So, for example, in T1, they get more HP than land and air, as they did before the HP nerfs. So basically so that it's not so easy to deny people in Navy, and because naval units cost more and do more damage on each given tech level, that the factories also require a higher HP value. So we can see here just buffs across the board to the HP values, and Cyber Regen is also just recalibrated slightly to match the formulas used perfectly. And it's extremely easy to remember these numbers now because we have realigned the system. So we have 16k, 14k, 12,800, 11k, and then half that. Well, yes, let's start with T1. So we have 4k, 3.5, 3,200, 2,750. Then when we go to T2 HQs, it's doubled. T2 support factories will have the same as the T1 equivalent. The naval HQs will have double the land HQs on T2, and the support factories in T2 naval will have the same value as the T2 land and air HQ. Then again we go T3 land and air, have double the T2 HQs, and then yes, the T3 naval support factory will have the same as the T2 naval HQ, and so on. And then the T3 naval HQ is slightly different. This is just aligned to will slightly buff the HP of other factions and leave UEF with 26k, which allows them to tank a nuke sub with their T3 naval HQ. And just a couple of corrections to regen. And then at the bottom we have just a couple of small changes, so satellite crash damage is reduced. And this is just so finally we can put to bed this satellite control K abuse, which is, well, it's just abuse really. Can't actually stop it. And we have the megalith here. This is to nerf the megalith's ability to reclaim, where it can reclaim at an absurd rate. So we've reduced the build rate significantly to 1/4. And the build times of the eggs are also reduced to compensate for that, so it doesn't take an extremely long time to actually build the eggs for the megalith. And that is that. So questions, you can leave them in the comments. Better, I would say, if you leave them in the forum, where most people will actually be reading and posting. And yeah, thanks for watching. I look forward to all your feedback.